have a chiropractor clinic called Focus on Health, and that's just what they do. They focus on overall health, and I'm going to turn the floor over to the two of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us over here today. We're excited to be here. Mark and I have been in practice together at the same clinic for the last 7 years, and we've been practicing chiropractic for the last 20 years. So we're happy to be here, and we look forward to getting out in our community and talk to people like yourself. So our hope is that you're going to listen to what we have to share with you with an open mind and open heart, and not only you will find the information useful, but hopefully if you do choose to implement it in your life, it's going to have a drastic positive impact on your health and your life in general. Let me start off by saying that here in North America and Canada, we definitely have the best sick care of any place in the world. Do you agree? Yeah. What I mean by that is that when we rely on the health delivery system, we have to be sick in order to take advantage of it. So we in general have this perception that absence of symptoms, or generally speaking on how we feel, is how we choose to gauge our health, which in my opinion is not only a very misleading way, but actually a very dangerous way to do that. And again, what I mean by that is, if you speak to somebody who's suffered from a heart attack, the day before they suffered their heart attack, they were fine. They had no symptoms. And as a matter of fact, the statistics show that in 80% of the cases, the very first symptom of heart attack, anybody can guess? Somebody said that. Fatal. You die. And again, the day before, the days before, if you talk to them or to their family members, more often than not, they had no symptoms at all. So I'm going to be referring back to my cheat notes quite a bit because now our time is limited, and I just want to make sure that we hit all the highlights here. So let's go over this slide over here. There's a power that comes from the brain and travels down your spinal cord and out to all the different tissues of your body, whether they're organs, muscles, or joints. There are certain things that are facts and other things that are theories. This is a fact. This is how your body works, whether or not you choose to believe it. As you're sitting there listening to me, your food that you just ate is being digested, your heart is beating, your lung is breathing, and all of that is occurring because of these electrical signals that are traveling from your brain down your spinal cord and out to the periphery to the body. Now, when there are stressors that we are exposed to, which we'll talk about shortly, creates misalignments in through your spinal cord, the spinal column. That misalignment is referred to as a subluxation, which interferes with the signals that are going out to the body, and when left uncorrected, it will affect the way that those tissues, whether it's a muscle or an organ or a joint, do not function optimally. So I just want to demonstrate that with a toy that we have here to show you that although your spinal column is made out of 24 movable segments called the vertebrae, they all function together, and any stress anywhere inside, anywhere on the spinal column would affect the entire body. The fancy medical term for that is a closed kinematic chain, which basically says what I just described. So we're going to go ahead and demonstrate that. So if it's possible, maybe we'll just go ahead and use a smaller group. Generally we get everybody to stand up, but we'll get everybody in the maybe front 2 rows or front row. At least we have 5 or 6 people here. And we'll get everybody to into this for me. Once you step up, you want to kind of stand in a way that everybody can see this. So why don't we all start to hold hands? Okay. Can I get you to remove your hand, please? Okay. Can you hold your hands again? How about you? Can you go ahead and remove your hand and hold it again? So basically the general concept, as you can see here, is that our nervous system works as a circuit. If there's a disconnect or a stressor there in one part of the body, over time, it'll affect the entire system. So a perfect example of that would be Christopher Reeves. a very unfortunate circumstance with a perfect example. As you probably know the history, at the time of his injury, there was no signals traveling from his C1 to the top vertebrae in his neck downwards, and every organ in his body was affected. If you saw him in any interviews, he was using a respirator for his lungs, a pacemaker for his heart, and he was a quadriplegic. But at the time of the accident, there was nothing wrong with any of his organs. It's just that there were no signals going through. So a subluxation does not cause paralysis, but it interferes with the proper function of the end tissues or the end organs in this case. We had a lady come into our office approximately 2 years ago. Like most of our patients, she was referred to the office, and her main concern was recurrent bladder infections that she was suffering from. She would get 7 to 8 bladder infections per year. And like most people, she would go to her medical doctor, get her antibiotics, and on she went. But she got tired of doing the same thing and not getting any changes. So she was referred to the office, and we did our assessment with her. We took an x-ray of the entire spine. If you look, it might be hard to see from where you're sitting, the bladder, the organ is further down, and the innervation, the nerve that goes to the bladder, comes from the lower part of the spinal column, called the lumbar spine. Now that part of her spine was completely clear. But when we completed the examination, further up in through her neck area, due to some previous injuries and car accidents, there was tremendous amount of change and degeneration in the neck. So when we started working with her, after 3 months of care, as I said, it was almost 2 years ago, she has not had a single bladder infection since. So the idea is not only not to gauge your health by presence or absence of disease, but more importantly, even when you do get the care or that you want to address the problem with, it's not necessarily where the area of symptoms or problems are. You have to look at the human body as a whole, as opposed to different compartments. I just want to share another personal story with you. My uncle, at the age of 53, this is a few years ago, had a massive heart attack. Thankfully, he survived. When they opened him up to do the surgery, they found quite a bit of scar tissue in his T1 to T3, which is in the upper back area. Guess where those nerves go to from the upper back? They directly supply the cardiovascular tissue and specifically your heart. So when people are sitting behind their desk or they're complaining of neck and back issues, that's a warning signal to tell you that there's something wrong and you need to do something about it. And unfortunately, when these problems stay there long enough, then the chronicity can manifest itself in different ways. The latest research, I know some of you probably can't see that all the way back there, but the latest research shows us that up to 90% of all illnesses are caused by stress. Things like ADHD, Alzheimer's, irritable bowel syndromes, fibromyalgia, and the chronic fatigue syndrome. All those different things are because of these stressors that have become basically epidemic, that we all are exposed to on a daily basis. Let's see the next slide. So as far as the stressors are concerned, there's 3 different types of stress. There's the physical stressors that we can easily identify, the posture that we get exposed to on a daily basis, car accidents, sports injuries that may have happened many years ago. Emotional stresses, we also understand what they are, and also chemical stressors. The foods that we ingest, the pollution that we might be exposed to. But our brain and our nervous system, when these stressors we are exposed to over a long period of time, perceives it as one thing. It creates an imbalance in the brain and the rest of the nervous system, and when that's left uncorrected over time, it has different manifestations. These are some of the examples. How do we perceive stress? Money problems, depression, anxiety, relationship issues, work, divorce, different types of losses, weight gain. I mean, all those things are different stressors that have a cumulative effect over time. I'm just going to say, we can maybe go to Roger Speery. Dr. Roger Speery is a medical doctor that won the Nobel Prize for his work in correlating the importance of posture to its impact on your overall health and vitality. So his work showed that going back to the evolutionary times, we went from being quadrupeds to eventually becoming bipeds, correct? And through this research, he's found that in 10% of the brain energy is used for functions like thinking, metabolism, healing, immune system function, and so on. But 90% of the brain's energy is used to keep us upright against gravity. That's huge. And 90% of our brain is used for that purpose. So we were talking about stress in a couple of slides before. As our bodies become stressed, and that stress is not dealt with, and the brain and the nervous system becomes imbalanced, guess what we revert back to? We start to revert back to the posture that we came from. Slouched shoulders, forward head posture, and other alterations, which we'll show you in just a second. So most people think, well, you know what, I have poor posture, I need to work on my muscles because my muscles are weak. It has nothing to do with that. Or I'm not standing up straight because you know, my mom used to tell me to stand up straight. Now, if I had done that, my posture would not be off. This is an actual neurological problem. That doesn't mean that you should not work out or exercise. That's not what I'm saying. But you need to get to the cause of the problem. When the posture is off, and there's more information and material that we can share with you, but again, we're trying to get through this as quickly as possible. It is not possible to have a healthy life. Let's look at this posture over here. This is a proper posture. So when you look at the view from front to back, the shoulders should be level, the pelvis should be level. And when you look at the side posture, the position of the head should be on the shoulder, and if you drew an imaginary line between your earlobe, your shoulder, your crest, which is your belt line, and your ankle bone, malleolus, it should be a straight line. But unfortunately, as you can see on the next slide, it's rare to see a posture like that. And that's what we see in the vast majority of people. Forward head posture, rotation of the rib cage, imbalance in the pelvis, what's called hyperpronation or flattening of the foot. And when you are going through life on a day-to-day basis, it is not possible to stay healthy. If you look around you in your circle of friends and family, people who have been suffering from a posture like this for some time, I guarantee you they're on several different medications and there are different health issues that they're dealing with. It is absolutely impossible to shut off the nervous system when it's been under that much stress and still enjoy good health. I want to talk about fight or flight before I pass it over to Mark. This is a mechanism that was a useful evolutionary mechanism that when we were back in the hunter and gatherer days, where we'd go out in the wilderness to go out and hunt and bring the food back into our cave, it was very useful. We would be confronted with all kinds of different dangers. How our bodies reacted depended on whether or not we would survive. So it was a survival mechanism. Cortisol, which is a stress hormone, gets released into our bodies, which would store fat. The blood flow would be diverted into our muscular system so we could get away from that danger and run away. Our pupils would be dilated. Our heart rate would increase. Our respiration would increase. So therefore, again, we can go ahead and get away from the danger, go back to our cave, and if you had to stay there for 2 days, we had enough fat storage to be able to survive until the next time out. But nowadays, we're getting the same exact response when we are stuck in traffic on our way to work, or on our way back to work, or when we get dragged into a staff meeting, or we get a stressful phone call. And that's the reaction that we end up having. Now, when we stay in this state for a long time, then the adverse effects will start to show up and it's going to affect our health. That's why a lot of people that you may know are dealing with different health issues. You can try different diets, go on different exercise programs, but if you do not deal with the cause of your stress and find a way to balance that, those changes would be temporary at best. Does that make sense? So I would like to hand it over to Mark to go over some more information before we go to the interactive part of the presentation.
Well, as Dr. Touraj was telling us, when we're under stress, all of these things occur. When you're under stress, one of the least important things is your immune function. Because when you're trying to hide from the bear, when you're trying to escape, everything goes to the only necessary things in that moment. And one of the things that is not necessary is your immune system when you're running from a bear. So this is why people often get sick when they're under stress. The ability of our body to adapt to the stress we're under determines how healthy we are. We're on the next slide. So I want us to all see how much brain stress we have. Remember, as Touraj was saying, when we've gone from being a quadruped to being bipedal, that uses 90% of your brain's energy. So it's worth repeating. All the things that you think of as brain function, thinking, immune function, your ability to, on a daily basis, digest food, all of these things, that's 10%. 90% is simply to keep us opposing gravity. Okay? So I want to see how much brain challenge we have in this room, because when your brain is under stress, it quite often, in fact most of the time, is not your right and left brain. It is one or the other that's under more stress. So, by a show of hands, who sees her going clockwise? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Who sees it going counterclockwise? Okay? Who can see her switching back and forth? Okay? So about 4 of you have a relatively balanced brain in this moment. Everybody else has some type of brain challenge. If she is rotating clockwise, that is more right-sided brain. Big picture thinking, reasoning, artistic. If you see her going counterclockwise, that is more left brain. More logic, more small picture, more organization, okay, spoken language. But the purpose is to show you how our brains are being challenged every day. So I want to show you, again, something else. I want you to stand up for a minute. Give yourself a little bit of space if you can. If you have to exit the chairs, do that. I want to do a test. You can move these just a little bit up, so give yourself some room. Okay, I want to see who's more left brain, who's more right brain as another test. In a minute when I tell you to, depending upon which hand you are, you're going to use your good hand. You're going to write your name in air. And as you start to write your name in air, I want you to take your right foot and I want you to do a circle with it. Okay? So everybody start writing their name. Okay? Add your foot into the equation and do a circle. Okay. Hard, right? Okay, you can stop. Who here was good at writing their name when they added their foot in? Nobody? Who here? Okay, we got one. Who here was better at the foot, but they stopped writing their name when they started focusing on the foot? Everybody else? Okay, so again, left foot would be more left, the foot is more of a left brain thing, the writing is more of a right brain. Okay, so you can see everybody in this audience has some type of challenge going on to their brain. Now, on a daily basis, how does this show up? It shows up in many different things. It shows up in your posture. Okay, you can all take a seat. So, as Touraj was demonstrating, when we are stressed and we are supposed to be in this posture, we start reverting back like this. Okay? But let's say it's not a bilateral thing. Maybe it's one side more than the other. So therefore, your left side, if it's a left brain, is going to come forward, your hand's going to internally rotate, your hip is going to internally rotate. If you look at some of your chronic injuries, most people who present to my office have all one side. They say, I've already had this chronic shoulder injury, this chronic knee injury, the chronic ankle injury. Well, let's say you've got a chronic rotator cuff injury that you had from throwing a ball when you were 12. If your shoulder's internally rotated, that's never going away because you're constantly tugging at it. So this is not a muscular issue. It's not about going to physio and doing exercises for the shoulder. It's about getting your posture back, and the only way to get your posture back is to change the balance in your brain and get it more balanced, and so therefore the messages are communicating. You can go for it. Okay, so when we do these workshops, I want you to go away with practical things that you can go home and start to do. So I call it the 3 secrets. Okay, they're not really secrets because I tell it to everybody, but they're things that you can learn. Okay, secret number 1. Okay, correct your spine and balance your nervous system. Okay, who in here sees a dentist? Okay, who here saw a dentist before the age of 10? Okay, almost everybody. Who here has had their brain and nervous system assessed? 1. Who here got their brain and nervous system assessed before they were 10 years old? Nobody. Do you know what the most traumatic event most likely in your entire life is? Being born. You got it. Anybody here see live childbirth? Okay, other than giving birth? Okay, you actually watch it? Okay, what the medical doctors do, okay, and it's not their fault. This is not blaming them because in some cases they have to. But I watched both of my kids be born. And what they do is they take the head and they stretch it. And if you've ever seen their neck, it gets completely stretched and rotated. They have a very delicate nervous system that is just developing, and yet now you've stretched it and rotated it. Okay? Nobody knows. There's been no research showing what causes sudden infant death syndrome. Why do so many babies get colic? Why are we developing children who get chronic ear infections, and how many kids are being diagnosed with ADHD? Okay? When you see the way these kids are rotated and stretched, this is the beginning of when these challenges start. Okay? I adjusted both of my kids on the table that they were born on. I had 3 medical doctors and 4 nurses look around and they were scared. What are you going to do? I took my child, I put my pinkies right up and through here, because as Touraj was showing you the body, the most important segment in the entire spine is C1, and C1 controls your immune system. And so I put my pinkies on C1 and I used about 1 ounce of force to make sure that it wasn't shifted to one side, it was right in the middle. Took me about 15 seconds. And all the medical doctors did the same thing. That's it? I said, yeah, what'd you think I was going to do? I just watched you stretch my child's head about double its length. I wanted to correct what you just did. And after that, they all went, oh, okay. It's like they thought I was going to kill my child. Okay? But this is when the stressors can start, literally right from birth. And this is why we want kids checked at a very early age, because if the brain starts getting stressed at that age, you see a lot of now 10-year-olds, 15-year-olds that have bad posture. Their head is way forward. This is not because they're sitting at their desk. It is not because they're texting too much. Those things add to it. But you also have to add to it the physical, chemical, and emotional stressors. Okay, when your brain is unbalanced, you cannot heal. Okay, so the reason we ask people to get checked is so that their nervous system can function. Okay, the reason, I think Touraj touched on this, the reason the exercises, the diets, the treatments, the acupuncture, the medications that you take, the reason that they don't work in many cases is because you have a subluxation that's interfering from your brain to your body. So let me give you a couple of examples. Touraj gave you the example of the heart attack. My dad also had a heart attack. And it was exactly the same as what Touraj was talking about. They had all kinds of degenerative issues in the top of the back. He never had a symptom in his life. Thankfully, he survived. But about 3 months ago, I had a guy under care, and he got hit like this by a hockey stick. Okay? And from that moment on, he could barely move his hand, and he went to see if it was fractured. He went to physio. No one could figure out why he had pain, and he couldn't grip. He couldn't do anything. So when I assessed him, I found that he was subluxated right at the top of his neck. I adjusted him, which took maybe 20 seconds, and immediately he felt a burning, hot sensation into his arm. Then it was gone, and he had full strength in his hand. It was not a hand issue. When he got hit with the hockey stick, have you ever tried to put too much into your computer? You load it with too many files that are way too big, and you get that circle that goes around and around and around. You've overloaded the system, right? That is exactly what happens to your brain and nervous system. It gets overwhelmed, it cannot function. Okay, for 14 years, I worked at York University. I was the chiropractor in York Lanes Mall. And one day I had a woman come in to me. She came in with her boyfriend. She had been suffering with depression. She had suffered with back and neck pain. So she came in, it was her first adjustment. I adjusted her upper neck, and literally within 2 or 3 seconds, she started bawling her eyes out. Now, as a chiropractor, because there was so much negative misinformation out there, The last thing I want to do is see someone crying on my table. So I looked at her boyfriend, and I looked at her, and she said, no, it's okay. And her boyfriend was like, oh my God. And I said, what's the oh my God? This is the first time she's cried in 15 years. She hadn't cried. So as soon as we released the stress in her upper cervical spine, she did what she needed to do, which was let it out. And then the story came out that she worked at Starbucks, and the day before she had such an anxiety attack, she went into the back room, locked the door, and she wanted to cry because it was like built up. I don't know if any of you suffer with anxiety, but the anxiety can build up and you want to let it out. So she just couldn't cry. So for her, she forgot about her neck pain, her back pain, which by the way went away, but she was happy that she finally got the emotional release out. So we see this over and over again. Does anybody here know anybody with ADHD or ADD, any kids that have it? Okay, we see this all the time in our office. I had a child who was about 11 years old, and the main thing that they had, what the father came in and said, we cannot get our child to take a shower. They won't sit still, so they couldn't get him in the shower. So I had him under care, and after the first week, the father came in and just said, thank you. His son was showering again, okay? It wasn't ADD as they typically diagnose it. When your skull is not sitting properly on your head and your nerves are getting compressed, you get hyperactive, your frontal lobe gets deactivated. You can't reason, you can't deal with stress, okay? So this is why we get kids checked. So, sorry, leave it on this for a minute. I like this because it explains it very easily. A balanced brain equals health and healing. Health and healing is an expanding spine and nervous system. How many people do you see that are walking around like this that are in a bad mood? You know, I feel good, right? You don't see someone going, I feel awesome today, right? But you do feel people who are contracted for sickness and disease doing this. I feel awful. You walk with your eyes down, right? I tell all my patients to look as far as you can in the distance, as if you're always looking for something. It brings you up, okay? Smiling affects your brain, okay? Have you ever seen someone really sad when they're smiling? It's impossible. Your brain has a mechanism to do this. So sometimes I've had people practice in the mirror, just smiling. Okay? It helps your brain recognize what's going on. Okay. Secret 2, identifying incoming stress. All of you should have a worksheet that says creating wellness on it. Okay? This is something for you to do at home, but I want to explain what it is. First of all, for you to manage your stress, you have to identify incoming stress. Physical, chemical, and emotional. So what I challenge you to do when you leave here today is do an exhaustive list. Not just a couple of things. Every chemical stress that you're exposed to. The food you eat, the chemicals you smell, maybe you live by a bus station and all the fumes are coming at you. Every chemical stress you have. Then every physical stress. You play sports, you sit at your desk, you sleep twisted, okay, you stand all day, you use the subway and it vibrates. Every physical stress that you can think of. And then every emotional stress. Divorce, family, friends, work, your children, okay, the pressure you put on yourself to compete with, you know, friends, family, and the other. Every emotional thing that's going on right now, write it down. After you've done that, an even longer list will be what's gone on in the past. How many traumas, how many emotional traumas, what has gone on with you your entire life. Your list should be 100 things, okay, at least. Every injury, every fall that you've had, every broken bone, whatever it is. You cannot fix things that you cannot identify. Now, once you've done these lists, you're certainly going to be able to put some of them in one thing together, right? You don't have to approach everything differently. But once you have your lists, now you've got to look at each one and say, how am I going to deal with this? Do you need to see a chiropractor? Do you need to see a therapist? Do you need to do exercise? Do you need to change your diet? Do you need to go and start meditating, do mindfulness? You cannot determine what you need to do until you understand all the stressors that you have. And that's where, sorry, go back for a second. That's where C, reduce or eliminate. Come up with a plan, and we're happy to help you with that, or if you have other people in your life that can help you with that. You have to have a plan for every single one of them. Okay, secret 3, increase your capacity for stress. This is what it's all about. People who can adapt to the stressors around them live a longer life. People who don't adapt to the stressors around them, they die earlier. So some of the things that we talk about, rest, nobody rests. Okay, in fact, I hear people saying, no time to rest, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I hear this all the time. The problem is they're going to die earlier. Okay, if I let each one of you have a month off work, and I said just sleep as much as you want, don't feel guilty about it, you'd sleep 8 to 10 hours every night for a while until you caught up on your sleep, and then you'd get back to your regular. Some people need 4 or 5 hours a night, and that's it. Some people need 7. But we're so overtired, we need our bodies to rejuvenate. How do you deal with your daily stress if you're always exhausted? Exercise, nutrition, mindfulness. Okay, these are all sort of the buzzwords now. Mindfulness. MindFit, which I'm going to come back to. HeartMath is a type of breathing we teach. Psych-K is a type of muscle testing to uncover your subconscious belief systems. Lumosity. Does anybody know what Lumosity is? Brain games. Okay, keep your brain active. Okay, problem solve things. And then DTS, time management. Who here has a plan for their life, their schedule? Anybody? If you were going to go build a house, you're not going to just start building the house. You have an architect or design the house. Okay? Has anybody here heard the Big Rock story? Okay? The Big Rock story goes something like this. Teacher stands up in front of the class with a jar of big rocks. And he says, who thinks this jar is full? And everybody puts up their hand. And then he says no, and he puts in little pebbles. Again he asks, who thinks this is full? No. Then he pours in some sand. No. Then he pours in some water. Now it's full. And basically the message is if you put the water or the sand in first, there's no room for the big rocks. So the big rocks are your priorities in life. If I ask people what their priorities are, it's usually in one of these orders. Health, friends, relationships, their husband or wife. Okay? Those are usually the top 3. But then you look at their schedule on a daily basis. They're not paying attention to their health. They're not paying attention to their spouse. They're not dealing with their friends. They're not looking after their money, really. Okay? What we're doing is grocery shopping, going around crazy. We're doing our laundry. We're doing all of these things. So what I recommend you do, and for those of you who resist this because you think it's too regimented, it's going to do the opposite. If you get up at 6:30 and you go to bed at 11, I want you to basically schedule your entire day. First, put in your work hours because they're non-negotiable. Put in your sleep hours because they're non-negotiable. Put in anything to you that's non-negotiable. For me, it's my kids. Then, put in the things that are your priorities. If you want to exercise, put it in. You want to do food prep for the week. If you want to do meditation, you want a date night. Whatever it is that's important to you, put it in. And when you realize that it doesn't all fit, you're going to have to prioritize. But by the end, you're not going to have a life that someone else created. You're going to have a life that you created. And what I found in my life is that when I'm doing the groceries, I don't have to feel guilty that I'm not with my kids. And when I'm with my kids, I don't have to feel guilty that I'm not at work. And when I'm reading, I don't have to feel guilty that I'm not doing my laundry. Because it's all there. And you know that you've programmed it all in. The idea is there's nothing in your life that you prioritize that shouldn't be in that schedule. And if you take this challenge and do it for yourself, you're going to realize it just made your life a lot easier. Because now you can't forget things. It's all there. And I follow mine about 70% of the time. Not bad. You know, it's not perfect. There's changes every week. But if you follow it 70% of the time, you're going to do very well. So the last thing I want to speak about today is called MindFit. MindFit is a way of retraining your brain. It's one of the things that we use in our clinic because what we deliver is called brain-based care. The adjustments are brain-based and the technology we use is brain-based. So what we're using is a very high-tech system and it's about changing the way your brain functions. Has anybody ever had any experience with brain waves? Okay, so let me explain the basics because I think that it'll be interesting to you. We have 4 basic brain waves: beta, alpha, theta, delta. Beta is where you are right now. Normal waking state, you're in beta. The highest form of beta is stress. So when you're walking outside with all the lights, the sounds, the stress, we're in high beta. Alpha, you're reading. You're hypnotized. That's what hypnosis is. They get you into a beta state. An alpha state. Reading, imagination, playing music. This is all alpha. Theta is dream state, when you're dreaming. And Delta is deep sleep. When you are in alpha, theta, or delta, you don't feel pain. Okay? Your body is healing. When you're in beta, that's when you feel pain. Most of us are stuck in beta. And when you go to sleep at night, your brain should go beta, alpha, theta, delta, and then throughout the night it should go alpha, theta, delta, alpha, theta, delta. That's your brain's way of unwinding, healing, and restoring itself. But I guarantee you 90% of the people in this room, your brain goes beta into delta. You go into your deep sleep and you wake up exhausted. Can anybody relate to waking up exhausted? Okay, even if you get 8 hours or you get 10 hours, you're still tired. It's because your brain never went through these cycles. The MindFit unit, please go to the next slide. Beta, alpha, theta, delta. Okay? The idea is we want you to use all of them, not just beta and delta. Next slide, please. So alpha is that light relaxation, and theta is when you get into the dream state. It's a deeper state of relaxation. Okay? So, press it again. Right. So the MindFit Neuro Trainer, which you guys can come up and check out afterwards. Kind of cool. Looks high tech, but really what happens is there's some flashing lights that come through here. The light goes right into your optic nerve. Your brain picks it up. Through here, there's some lights that go into your ear, and then there's sound technology that helps to balance your brain. So what we have with this, because there's spoken word and there's the lights and the sound that goes into your ear, we are able to get your brain to go from beta into alpha into theta into delta. 20 minutes on this is equivalent to 3.5 hours of restful sleep. So people come into our office, they don't sleep, they work late hours. They come in, they have 20 minutes on this, they get the rest. People who have sleep problems, insomnia, sleep apnea, this helps to retrain your brain. But we also have weight loss programs, chronic pain programs, irritable bowel programs, because when your brain is balanced, you deal with all of these things. Okay, we deal with kids with autism, with ADHD. But because of the technology, if you've ever wanted to learn a different language, this is also a way of learning it. We put your brain into an alpha and theta rhythm, which means that your brain can adapt and heal and learn. Okay, there's a term called hypermnesia. Hypermnesia means that your brain is able to learn more. And that's what happens when you have this technology. Okay, so I talked about the optic nerve and how the body synchronizes. Next slide, please. Again. Okay, and again. So what studies are showing that this improves the neurochemicals that go through your body? So if you go to the next slide. Again. Okay, 11% increase in norepinephrine. Does anybody know what norepinephrine does? Keeps you awake. Okay? When you take norepinephrine, usually for your nose when you have a cold or something, you know how they have the nighttime and the daytime ones? The daytime ones have norepinephrine. Okay? But this is a natural way of increasing the norepinephrine in your body to keep you awake. Next. 21% increase in serotonin. Okay? Anybody know what serotonin does? It's the happy chemical, right? But you want your brain to produce more serotonin. Okay, I don't know if anybody here has been on antidepressants. It's a very interesting concept. What it's doing is there are serotonin uptake inhibitors. What it does is they want to keep the serotonin that you do create in your brain for longer. Okay? How many things that you know get better with age? Okay? What happens when you leave your milk in the refrigerator for too long? Right? Keeping serotonin in your brain longer is not the way to make your body healthier. It's by creating more serotonin so that your body can use it efficiently. 21% increase. 25% increase in beta endorphins. Who knows what that is? Endorphins, painkillers. As I said, when you're in an alpha and theta rhythm, you feel no pain. So when we get your brain into more of an alpha and theta rhythm, your chronic pain goes away. Next slide, please. Okay, so these are some of the other benefits that we're starting to see. You can put them all up. From this technology. Improved vision because it affects the optic nerve. Accelerated learning, balanced brain hemispheres, normalized blood pressure. The blood pressure is a huge one. We deal with that all the time. Augmented energy, lifted mood, stabilized emotions, elimination of addictions. We have a very good alcohol and quit smoking program, and a boost in self-assertiveness. Next slide, please. So it helps you eliminate unwanted habits. Has anybody heard of athletes who basically rehearse their event in their brain before they do it? Because the brain does not know the difference between what you think and what you actually do. So if you come up with a realistic enough visualization, that is the way your body thinks it's happening. So when you are listening to these things and it's putting this visualization in your head and you're rehearsing it over and over into your subconscious, you basically get rid of unwanted habits and gain new ones.
Let's do a slice of lemon.
Right.
Example. Start thinking about a slice of lemon. You can close your eyes and think about a slice of lemon that's in your mouth right now. Just picture it. What's happening to your saliva? Any reaction? Yeah, absolutely. And that's what Mark's talking about. Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay, next slide. Okay, so really as we're approaching the end here, the key points to remember is you get what you rehearse in life. So making a DTS, you know what your life is all about. When you use creative visualization, you're creating the life that you want. If all you're doing is thinking about negative thoughts, that's what you're going to get. Now, we didn't have time to do some muscle testing today, but what muscle testing shows us is that our muscles go weak when we think negative thoughts. Okay? And when we think negative thoughts, it encourages our whole nervous system to go weak. And this is what we get. If you think positively, which people have been saying for thousands of years, it's not just a euphemism. It really does keep your nervous system strong. Okay? Next slide, please. Okay, so first of all, I mean, we only had a limited amount of time and we showed up a few minutes late, but we do appreciate you giving us your time today and coming because I know time is valuable. The fact is, though, 90% of illness can be related to stress. Stress is an epidemic, okay? Your body cannot heal when you're under stress and your brain isn't balanced. Now, a few minutes ago, I asked you, who has ever had your spine and nervous system checked? And I think there was one person that actually raised their hand. To me, that's completely unacceptable. And when we do workshops like this, it doesn't seem right for me to come in here and then sell you on something. So I don't want to do that. But I do feel obligated to give you the opportunity to have your spine and nervous system checked. So anybody here or at the other branch that I think is watching, anybody that would like their spine and nervous system assessed, we brought our assistants Andrea and Lauren today. If you want to sign up for an appointment, there's no obligation. We're doing it completely at our expense. If you are not in our neighborhood and you do want you or your family assessed, ask us and we'll try to find you someone in your neighborhood. But it's important that you actually get checked, okay? We are not talking about curing all disease. That is not the message we're talking about. What we're talking about is correcting the reason that disease and sickness takes hold, okay? That is what we're trying to correct here. All right? This applies to heart disease, lung disease, chronic bladder infections. It goes with skin conditions, anxiety, chronic fatigue syndrome, depression. Any health concern that you have, you need your brain functioning at its highest level to make sure that it's working. Okay? Touraj and I go around and do workshops. And the reason we do this is because people are suffering. I'm sure your family and friends, you can relate to this. So we go around and we talk to people about this, and we want you to have this information. Because we run a busy practice at Yonge and Eglinton. We don't need to be coming out and doing this. But everybody has to have a purpose for getting up in the morning. And this is our purpose. We want to get up and we want people to understand the way their brains function. We want them to understand that this is a sick care system, not a health care system. Okay? So if you do choose to book in with us today, we will open up enough slots for everybody here. And quite frankly, I want your family and friends to get checked. We're not going to charge anybody anything. If we can help you, we will do a full exam and we will give you your choices. We will tell you what your choices are, and at that point you can make a decision. If you choose not to, or we can't help you, we will try to lead you to someone that can help you. Okay? But please, don't make an appointment just because we're asking you to. Make it because you're committed to changing your health, because it's been like this long enough. I can tell you one thing in closing. Every single thing that we've talked about today has helped me and I think saved my life. I had been dealing with anxiety since I was about 18 years old. So everything we've talked about, from the mind fit to different breathing to getting my spine checked and my nervous system, this is who I am because this is what I do for myself. And so everything that we have in our clinic, not only has it worked for me, but it's worked for hundreds and thousands of other people. So I do want to thank you for your time. Andrea and Lauren are here to help you if you want to book in. And Touraj and I are here. I can show you the MindFit unit. We can answer any questions for you. Does anybody have any questions right off the bat that we can answer?
Is there parking near your location?
We are in the Yonge Eglinton Center. So if at the northwest corner of Yonge and Eglinton. There is parking underneath, which you can get validated for an hour if you spend $20 at Metro, Indigo, or LCBO. There's also some street parking, and really if you take the subway, you don't even have to get out, you don't have to go outside, we're right in the building. Okay? Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate your time, and we're here if you want to come up and talk, or Andrea and Lauren will be happy to book you. And again, family or friends, because kids are very important to us. Okay, please don't hesitate to give us their names, and if you don't know a time, just tell Andrea or Lauren that you're interested, and we'll contact you to make a time that works for you. Okay? Thank you very much.